Okay, bonjour. So we're into our last tense that we're going to look at this time, and we're talking about the conditional tense today. This is the last one really that we look at GCSE level. Um, so let's have a quick look. What is the conditional tense? So the conditional tense is usually based on a condition of something happening. So there's usually an if word involved. So if the weather's nice, or if I win the lottery, or if I have enough money, or if I have enough time. And then the next bit is the conditional tense. I would do this, or I would do that. So you might say, I would eat an ice cream, I would play football in the park. That is the conditional tense. It's a bit like the future tense, but it's usually based on a condition. Something else has to happen in order for you to do what you're wanting to do. So it's very often would or could. So here's a few examples. We've got je regarderai la télé, je mangerai une glace. So again, we can have a stop for a minute and have a think about how have I formed those sentences. The verb, the second word, how is that being formed? Je regarderai la télé is I would watch telly. Je mangerai une glace, I would eat an ice cream. So what we hopefully have spotted here is that it's very similar to the future tense we've looked at already. We're taking the full verb regarder and the full verb manger, and we're adding on AIS to the end. So before, the future tense, we added on AI. This time we're adding on AIS. Slightly different. Il jouerait au rugby. Again, I've taken the full word jouer and I've put AIT on the end this time. He would play rugby. And nous porterions des baskets. We would wear trainers. So I've taken the full verb porter and I've added on IONS. So this is very similar to the future tense. We take the full verb, but we add on endings that are different. So let's have another look at that, a bit more detail. So again, just go through what we need to do. We need to find the stem, and the stem is called the infinitive. So it's very similar to the future tense at the moment. So it's the full form of the verb. Here we already know lots of these. I'm going to go through them all again. We already know lots of them. They're all infinitives. They all still have the ER on the end of them. Jouer, manger, regarder. We get our stem. There's some more of them. Lots of verbs there. We already know those. We've seen these quite a few times now. Habiter, to live. So that's our first part, the full verb. If we don't know a verb, we could look up in a dictionary. So tomber is the full verb to form, and couper is the full verb to cut. So that's our starting point. And onto that, we're going to add some endings. And these are the endings. So for je, we add AIS. For tu, we add AIS. For he, we add AIT. And for she, we add AIT. So AIS, AIS, AIT. For we add IONS. For you, we add IEZ. And for they, we add AIENT. So those are the endings for the conditional tense. AIS, AIS, AIT, IONS, IEZ, AIENT. So I've got a few things to say at the moment. So once again, I'm going to say what I've said very often is you need to learn your tenses very thoroughly as you go along, because right now here we've got more endings that we need to add on to something. It's all very confusing if we don't know the first bits earlier on, part of the present tense and the future tense and things like that. If we don't know those tenses already, then we're going to get it all muddled up in our head. It's obvious that's going to happen. If we don't know it very well, it's all going to get muddled up. So we need to have a really good sit down and learn what we're doing here with these tenses. This is obviously really for year 10 and 11, because this is quite complicated stuff now. So I want to add a few things on here. Firstly, this is very similar to the future tense. We take the stem, but the future tense has some endings, and they're not the same, but it's quite similar. So sometimes I actually teach the future tense and the conditional tense in the same lesson. No, I haven't gone crazy. Sometimes I do that because these are very similar. You just take the same stem, future conditionals are already the same, then you add on the endings. The endings are slightly different, but we add on some endings. So we need to learn these endings again. AIS, AIS, AIT, IONS, IEZ, AIENT. So those are the endings for the conditional tense. Look at examples then. So we've got so here we've got the verb jouer. It's a full form of the word jouer, and we add on AIS. So je jouerai, I would play. So the last time we put just AI on the end for the future, that's I will play, je jouerai, with AI on the end. But with AIS on the end, it's I would play. So it's slightly different, but it's very precise. As I've said already, if you can use this tense, the examiner is very impressed by people being able to use these tenses properly. So tu jouer, put AIS on the end, you would play. Il jouer, full verb, AIT this time. Elle jouer, put AIT. So we're taking a full verb, we're putting AIT on the end. Nous jouer, we're taking jouer and we're putting IONS. Jouer here for you, we're putting IEZ. Il jouer, AIENT, elle jouer, AIENT. So we've got I would play, you would play, he would play, she would play. Taking the full verb, we're putting our ending on the end. We would play, you would play, they would play. So this is the conditional tense. We take the full verb jouer, we put AIS on the end for I, AIT for he, IONS for we. So a couple of things I want to say here. First of all, this is not difficult what we're doing here. This is really quite easy. We're just taking the word jouer, we're putting AIS on the end. That's simple. But what is difficult is you needing to learn it off by heart so that you know how to do this when you're in an exam situation, you haven't got your book and you haven't got your notes. You need to remember which one's which. Don't get them muddled up. You need to know them really well so you're not getting them muddled up. So for example, if you make a mistake and you don't put the S on the end, then you've not said I would play, you said I will play, which is similar but not quite exactly the same. So this is quite simple what we're doing, but we need to try and remember the differences between each tense. So that's a conditional tense. We take the full verb and we put the ending on the end. Now I don't want to confuse anyone here, but if you just have a quick look, did anyone notice anything about those endings? Did anybody seen them before? And the answer to that is you have seen them before, because the endings for the conditional tense here are also the endings for the imperfect tense. Now you can look at that in one or two ways. You can either think, oh, that's so confusing, why are they the same, it's really difficult. Or you can learn it in a positive way and say, actually, that makes it easier because I don't have to learn endings, I'll just need to learn these endings once, and that means I've got them for the conditional tense and the imperfect tense. So these are the endings for the imperfect tense and the conditional tense. So what's the difference between the two? Now I need to just concentrate for a minute and just look at the top line, je jouerai. So what we've done for the conditional tense here, I would play, is we've kept the full verb jouer, we've put AIS on the end. How do we form the imperfect? Well, we take the ER off, don't we? We say jou and the ending's AIS. So je jouais without the ER is I used to play. Je jouerai with the ER is I would play. This is why I'm saying to you, it's very important we learn them carefully. So you could make a simple mistake. You could be trying to say I used to play, which would just be Jouais, jouer. But you might make a mistake. You might leave the ER in there because you've got it a bit muddled up. And instead of saying I used to play, you've said I would play. Or vice versa, you could do the opposite. You could be trying to say I would play, jouer, like it's written there, jouerai, I would play. But you might make a mistake, and you might mistakenly take away the ER and just put jouer, and that would mean I used to play. So instead of saying I would play football in the park, you've said I used to play football in the park. So they're quite similar to each other here, and we need to be very careful with them. Let's carry on. Again, we've got a bit of an issue in terms of some irregular verbs. It's exactly the same as the future tense. That's why we learn them together sometimes, because they're very similar to each other. So with irregular verbs, we don't use the verb as the stem. We have to just try and remember an irregular stem. So this is the verb faire, to do or to make, but we don't put the ending onto faire. we put it onto fer, F-E-R. So je ferai would be I would do swimming, or I would go swimming. Conditional tense. J'irai en ville, that's the verb to go, but we don't put AIS on the end of aller because it's an irregular verb. We put it on the stem, which is ir. This is the same as for the future tense. These endings are these stems are the same as the future tense. So j'irai would be I would go into town. So you might say, if the weather's nice, I would go into town. S'il fait beau, j'irai en ville. You might say, I would go into town. So we're taking our stem IR and we put AIS on the end. Similar sort of thing here. Elle aurait 6 ans. This is the verb avoir, to have, but we don't put the AIT onto avoir because it's irregular. The stem is or, and we put the ending onto that. Elle aurait 6 ans. She would have 6 years old. She would have 6 years. Because the French don't use the word to be. They don't say I am 6, you say I have 6. So that's how you would say that. And finally, you might say nous serions fatigués. So that would be we would be tired. We've taken, that's from the verb to be, être, but it's an irregular stem, ser, S-E-R, and the ending is I-O-N-S. So nous serions fatigués, we would be tired. Now again, just be careful here with that bottom one for a minute. Just look carefully at that. If we miss out the I in the middle, we just put S-E-R-O-N-S, then that's the future tense. We will be tired. The conditional tense has a little extra I in there. Nous serions fatigués. We would be tired. They're very similar, but they're not exactly the same. If you make a slight mistake because you're not really concentrating, then, or you just get a little bit muddled up, then you might end up saying something different to what you want to say. This is really like quite advanced stuff now. We're getting very precise about how we're writing things. Just one letter wrong could mean a difference between we will be tired or we would be tired. So we have to be very, very careful here. So most of the time with the conditional tense, we take the full verb and we put the endings on the end. But with these verbs here, we just have to be careful. Attention, be careful. Because there are some irregular verbs where we don't use the verb, the infinitive, we have to use the stem, a different stem. But the good news, as it says there, is the endings are always the same. AIS, AIS, AIT, IONS, IEZ, AIENT. The endings are the same, but it's the stem that changes slightly. So ser is the stem for to be, or is the stem for to have, ir is the stem for go, faire is the stem for to do. And again, there's a couple more here. Pouvoir, to be able. So if you want to say I could, it would be je pourrais, AIS on the end. It's a irregular verb. And venir, the verb to come, the verb is irregular, so it would be viendre. So if you want to say I would come, it would be je viendrai, AIS on the end. So there's a few more as well, but those are the most common ones, especially the top 4 there. Être, avoir, aller, and faire. We need to learn them off by heart. I think the best way to do this is just to have a go. If there's the verb être, so we don't use être, we use ser because it's an irregular verb. We need to learn that, and we add the endings on. So je serai, I would be. Tu seras, you would be. Il serait, elle serait, so he would be and she would be. Nous serions, vous seriez, il serait, elle serait. So those are our endings: AIS, AIS, AIT, IONS, IEZ, AIENT. So the endings for conditional are always the same, but we're just adding them on to something slightly different here for this irregular verb. So as I said, I would be, je serais, I would be. Tu serais, you would be. Il serait, elle serait, he would be, she would be. Nous serions, we would be. Vous seriez, you would be. Il serait, elle serait, they would be. For a group of boys and a group of girls. So the endings are the same. Normally we add them on to an infinitive, a full verb, but sometimes, like here, we have to think carefully about what we add them on to. As I said many times, when you get to those 4 verbs, to be, to have, to go, and to do, whenever you use those verbs, whatever the tense is, you should always have alarm bells going off in your head. because those verbs are always irregular and you need to think carefully about them. So let's look at a few examples, a few questions here. We're going to have a go at these together. Let's have a look at this one first of all. I would watch. So first of all, we'll just talk you through it here. We're going to take the word I, which is je, to start with, and then we need the word to watch, which is regarder. But regarder is just a regular verb. So we take the word regarder and we add an R ending, which is AIS. Je regarderai is I would watch. Let's say if there's anything good on, I would watch the telly or something like that. I would watch. Je regarderai. Now again, if you just look at that, how complicated that looks. It looks quite complicated. It looks like complex and quite sophisticated. An examiner will be really impressed if you can use that verb form correctly. Je regarderai. I would watch. Number 2, we would play. So let's just talk ourselves through it. First of all, we need the word for we, which is nous. And then we need the word to play, which is jouer. J-O-U-E-R, jouer. And then we don't need to change jouer, we just leave it the same, but we have to add on our ending. What is the ending going to be? It's not going to be AIS this time, because we're not saying I would play. It's going to be IONS, because we're saying we would play. Nous jouerions. We would play. Again, this is very advanced stuff. If you're using conditional tense like this, it's very impressive to an examiner. So let's have a go at these next ones. He would listen. That's the verb écouter. They, masculine, would visit. That's just the word visiter. You would have. That's the word avoir. You need to be careful with number 5 because that's irregular. And we also need to be careful with number 6. She would be, because be is an irregular verb as well. So 5 and 6 we need to be careful with. They would finish. That should be put in regular, really. Number 8 we need to be careful with. You would go, because that's irregular. Number I would live. That's going to be pretty regular, normal, I think. And we would eat. That would also be pretty normal because they're regular verbs. So you just need to be very careful. We'll pause it in a moment. We need to be careful with number 5, number 6, and number 8. Because those 3 are regular verbs and you need to just be a little bit careful with them. So have a go. Okay, so let's have a look. Number 3, he would listen. So first of all, we need to take the word for he, which is il, and the word for listen, which is écouter. We leave out a full verb, écouter, and we add on our correct ending for he, which hopefully you should know is, we go down, AIS, AIS, AIT on the end. Il écouterait. He would listen. Il écouterait. Number 4, they, masculine, a group of boys, would visit. So that word is il, I-L-S, il is the word for they. And the word to visit is just simply visiter, with the ER on the end. And we don't need to change that, just leave it the same, visiter. And we add on our correct ending, which here, if we go down, AIS, AIS, AIT, IONS, IEZ, AIENT. So there's our ending, AIENT. So il visiterait. Look how impressive that. I think that looks really impressive. If you use that in your work, I think an examiner will be really impressed. Il visiterait. They would visit. Number 5, you would have. This is where we need to be careful now. So you is tu. That's the first bit. And the verb to have is avoir, but it's irregular. So the stem that we're going to use is or, A-U-R. And we add on our ending, which is AIS. So it would be tu auras. You would have. Number 6, she would be. Again, we should be careful here because be is irregular. So we've got the word for she, which is L, and the word for the stem here is going to be ser, S-E-R, and the ending again is going to be, sorry, not again, but it's going to be like the number 3. It's going to be A-I-T on the end. Elle serait. She would be. Number 6. They would finish, but this is for a group of girls this time. This should be pretty normal because finish is just a regular verb. So they would be L, E-L-L-E-S, L, and finir, F-I-N-I-R, finir. And then we had to add the correct ending on, which is just like number 4, would be A-I-E-N-T. Go down the verb, A-I-S, A-I-S, A-I-T, I-O-N-S, I-E-Z, A-I-E-N-T. So it looked like that, Elle finirait. They would finish. They would finish their homework or something like that. Number 8 we need to be a bit careful with, the verb to go. So we've got the word vous first of all, vous, and then we need to take our stem. Now you might think aller is just, but aller is not a regular verb, so we can't just put, the ending here is going to be IEZ, isn't it? We've got AIS, AIS, AIT, IONS, IEZ. So the ending is going to be IEZ, but we can't put IEZ on the end of aller, because aller is a irregular verb, so instead it's going to be ir. So vous iriez, you would go. Vous iriez, you would go. So again, be careful with 5 and 6 and 8 because their stem is a little bit irregular. Whereas the other ones, 1, 2, 3, 4, for example, their stem is just normal. It's just a normal ER verb. Regardez, jouez, écoutez, visitez. Okay, super. Let's finish off. Number 9, I would live. So that's going to be pretty straightforward, really, I hope. It would be just je for a start with an apostrophe. And then habiter is the word for to live. So j'habite. And then we add on the ending for I, which is simply AIS. So j'habiterai, I would live. So you might say, if I won the lottery, I would live in Australia or something like that. J'habiterai en Australie. I would live. And finally, number 10, we would eat. So again, this should be pretty normal because manger here is straightforward. So we would be nous. Eat would be manger with ER on the end. And this time we add on the correct ending, which if we go down is AIS, AIS, AIT, IONS. So it would be nous mangerions. Again, that sounds really impressive, that, and looks impressive. Nous mangerions. We would eat. The ending is IONS. So that's how we form the conditional tense. We take the full, most of the time, the vast majority of the time, we take the full verb and we put on our endings. AIS, AIS, AIT, IONS, IEZ, AIENT. But sometimes we just have to be a little bit careful if it's an irregular verb, like to be or to have or to go or to do. Then we have to be a bit careful and we have to change the stem slightly. Like on number 6 there, the stem would be ser, and we put the ending onto that. The endings are always the same, don't forget, but we just need to be careful about the stem we're using. Okay, and again, we've talked about this quite a few times, but Languages Online is a really good website for grammar. Use it quite a lot, and there's a section on conditional tense, and you can have a look through your notes as you're doing the exercises and see how much you're getting right, and check it and mark it through the website. Okay, merci et au revoir.